Men at the top don't fail because of weakness. They fail because they're enslaved to the very patterns that made them successful. If you're done letting the same patterns choke you out of your next level, book a 6-week sprint with me. The link is in the description below. All right, so look, success has loops as well. So we've spoken about dopamine loops. We've talked about detrimental loops that usually plague people looking to be successful. But now once you get into the rung of success, meaning that you've gotten enough hurdles to now create a system that is cash flowing and profitable. So now you're successful, right? And so what happens first is that there are hidden traps of success. Grinding, control, charm, influence, network, women, and chaos itself are all ignitions or igniters to a loop that can be profitable for you, as you can see here. So what we do as successful folk, we take the grinding, the control, the charm, the influence, the networking, women, and chaos itself to ignite a loop that can become profitable once we start to make systems. Those systems get to running, and then we get the very success that we set out with the ignition, which is something on this list or multiple items from that list. But what most successful people do, or successful men do, is the ignition becomes the prison because it becomes their identity. When men become successful, they feel like without this section here, without the ignition fueling their system every second of the day, they're losing a part of themselves. And that's where they get it fucked up. When you are successful, looking to jump to your next rung or the next set of success, or even partner with men that we're going to speak about in the next part. If you're looking to partner with other successful men, these very igniters that got your success because you've made a profitable system have to be able to be disciplined to turn off at certain points. And what most men do is they attach their identity to the ignition. And it becomes a prison, because then how do you then function without the very thing that keeps you successful? You don't. Because now you've attached everything that you know in your identity to that very item or the igniter to your profitable loop. So now you just don't know what to do without it. And so what happens next is when you go look to partner with other successful men who both have some sort of loop going that's profitable, a system, a structure. It's brought them to a certain point. Therefore, if they've attached their identity to that very loop or the things that made them successful in the way of getting success, then they won't be able to partner together because there's going to be friction. Because men that compete, men that have ego battles, men that have distrust will end up inevitably collapsing whatever the venture is that they're trying to inhabit. Right? And you see it all the time. Men have this thing of boasting their ego when they get around other successful men. If you've ever gone to a networking event, the first thing men are going to ask you, what do you do? That's a way of saying, where do I put you in the hierarchy scale? You as a man understand that we live in a hierarchy system. Unlike women or children, men operate in a hierarchy system. Where are you sitting on the rung compared to me is exactly what do you do for work? That's what that question is inevitably doing. So what ends up happening is they compete and they have an ego battle, which then causes distrust and then collapses whatever venture they were looking to partner on. So to excel or accelerate into success with a vision that is clear between the two of them, what they must do is dissolve the addiction to the old patterns. So the very things that got them to the place of success in their life, they must drop at the door when they meet each other. Now, do they need to stop working in the capacity that they know how? Absolutely not. But the things like control, the things like always grinding, right? The things like women in chaos that might have fueled their profitable loop to make them successful have to be left at the door. I can have countless amount of stories where I'm trying to build a connection with an establishment or a business owner, right? To give them a service that they're willing to pay for. So again, we're getting them from A to B with my value gap, which is the service that I provide with my company. They want to get to B. So therefore, they're going to use what they know and what I know to get them to B, because they believe in the transformation and I'm going to be the one that gets there. But to do business with people, you have to connect. You have to form a connection. So when you're forming that connection, a lot of these old patterns have to be left at the door because you're two successful people in different realms that have patterns that can clash and cause a lot of friction. And if you don't leave it at the door, that friction is going to make, again, the deal collapse. So you have to dissolve the addiction to knowing that my success and where it's coming from isn't generated by the loops that brought me the success. It's within myself. Right? And a lot of successful men can't disassociate what makes them successful, right, from themselves. They can't. They just put them together and think that because this loop and this system and this way of grinding and this way of control and this way of always attracting women and this way of influence and networking and being able to cut through chaos but still have it operate within my space is what I am. That couldn't be farther from the truth. You are yourself. So you must learn how to disassociate from the very things that brought you the success. So many times men step on each other's toes because they always want control. And that's fine that you want control, but understand when you're going after a joint venture together, you have to leave those patterns of always being addicted to that control at the door, always being addicted to that grind at the door, always being addicted to that charm at the door. There are times, there's a place and time for everything with everything that the two of you may be doing as successful men, right? And hell, if it's not two, then it's 3, 4, 5. Now it's just layers on layers of just addictions to old patterns that can cause a lot of fucking friction. And of course, you can use the brunt force of like, get the fuck over it. We're grown men. We can get through it. But I want you to understand, grown men have a very hard time working through friction at optimal levels. And if you want to hit your next checkpoint as a successful man, then you need to understand that that friction, if dissipated, will get you to the very goal that you're looking to get to. But you have to get rid of these old patterns. So then the real question is how to escape the loop. Grinding, control, charm, influence, networking, women, whatever your loop is, this is the key importance. You have to note that yes, while these things do impact your loop, you must have full control over when you turn it on and when you turn it off. It cannot become your identity. So you have to assess yourself and know, okay, cool. This is what brought me success. Right? But at the same time, I have to have enough discipline to know when to turn it on and off. It's not enough to just know that it's there. You have to have the ability to go from 0 to 100 and 100 to 0 at the drop of a dime. Because when you meet other men, things fluctuate. And hierarchy scales will come into play. You can watch men online that when they're in a group, there's always a leader, there's someone who's quiet, there's a bitch boy who follows the leader, and there's someone who is secretly or has some sort of animosity because they want to be the leader. All of them have different ways of making their old patterns fuck up the business deal. When if all of them had the ability to turn off what made them successful in the first place, the deals and the way that they operate together, chemistry would flow. But it doesn't, because no man wants to have full control because it requires to let go of the very loops that they think made them successful. Because, hey, it's not your identity. So therefore, it's totally the thing that made you successful, yes, but it's not who you are. You have to understand who you are first to be able to have full control over the on and off, or the discipline to have to turn these things off. So the ignition no longer owns you, but you control it. Successful men, I beg you, from one successful man to another, let go of the ignition and making it have ownership over you. It is not your identity. Your control is not your identity. Your ability to grind is not your identity. Your charm is not your identity. It is something that helps you move a system forward to be profitable, to bring you success, but is not your identity. It is a fucking trait that you can turn on and off. And when we all mingle together and it's time to focus on a vision or a goal, we have to understand that we have to be able to turn on and off these things at a drop of a dime so that we all can communicate and operate at optimal levels. And if you are that successful man still struggling with all of these loops in whatever fashion they come, because you have now gotten trapped in the success loop, because you think if you stop, then your success will stop because you've made it your identity, then click the link below. And so your closing decree. Understand, the loop that made you a king is the same loop that will make you a slave. Break it or it breaks you. Your choice. Consider yourself warned.